Hi everyone, my name's Dan Draper and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe and turn on all notifications to keep up to date with the content that I'm going to be putting out, including my podcast. Let's get into the videos. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Dan Draper podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I have an absolute cracker of a guest today who is a very, very good friend of mine who we used to work together. So thank you so much, Mr. John Evans. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hey Dan, how's it going? It's great being on this show. It's so weird being on the opposite side though of the camera and also the interview. But yeah, I'm John. I run a podcast called The Hack Share, which is help introduce a stigma about mental health. But also I've set up a life coaching business as well, which I can talk to you more about in the episode. But I'm thrilled to be here, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I know that this was short notice, but this is going to be a cracker and I cannot wait. How have you been, mate? I haven't seen you in at least a couple of years since I left Get and when we were working together.
Yeah, it's been strange because like after you left, it was a bit of a shock because obviously got to know you and started to form a good friendship with you and Shabby, and yeah, it was just a bit of a hole that left there, and we never really caught up since. But then ever since you started the podcast, and I think that and I've started a podcast as well. We've been keeping in contact through that, and yeah, you've been helping me out, mate. But I've been good. It's just still a lot going on, a lot of adjusting. But yeah, can't complain, mate.
Oh, good, man. Yeah, that is. Do you know what? I've listened to your podcast as well, and I absolutely love it. It's so good, so good. So, congratulations, man.
Thanks, mate. And likewise with you as well. Like I listened to your episodes, and it's strange because you listen to the first episode that you've done, and then also like the latest, and you could just see that the improvement and hear it. And yeah, mate, and you're killing it. Also with like the radio gig that you've got going on, and all the sponsors, and everybody loving what you're doing. So, mate, congrats on that as well.
Thanks.
Stop it.
Stop it. You'll make me blush.
Bless.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. And this is going to be, honestly, I've been waiting to chat to you for so long, not only, to get you on the podcast, but just to catch up in general. So let's chat about it then, mate, because obviously your podcast, which again, we'll come on to later, but is around mental health. So, we'll dive deeper into that later on. But where is it that your struggle started? I usually start the episodes with this question. So where is it that your mental health struggle started and things like anxiety and stuff like that? Can you give us a bit more info on it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'll be completely honest with you, mate. You're pretty much, you're the second person that I've ever told about this. I told my wife about it a few months ago and had a bit of a breakdown too here by just releasing everything that I wanted to get off my chest. But it all started when I was a teenager, and when you're picking your GCSEs for the subjects that you want to do. So I always wanted to be an actor. And once I saw that drama was an actual option and a lesson that you can choose, I jumped at it. But then what happened was I was the only boy in that class, and people then started finding out about that I was the only guy doing drama, and it started getting a bit too much because I don't know, I feel like my heart's racing right now because I'm like kind of reliving the episode. But when you're playing football in school with various year groups, then people will be like, oh, you're the guy who does drama, or and ridiculing me saying that I was gay. And it just went on for like a good couple of years, to the point where it just made, for me personally, then approaching any social situations or any interactions where I meet someone that's a stranger, I just couldn't handle it. And it would, obviously I'd be sweating. I'm sweating now, like my palms are sweating. I would have heart palpitations, and I would always think that, what if this happens? What if this happens? And I still have it to the day, and I've been dealing with it for about 20 years, but I'm slowly getting better, and I've been slowly helping myself throughout the last few years to deal with social anxiety.
Yeah, mate. And Do you know what? It's such a tough time in school anyway, isn't it? I mean, without the added pressure of those types, because I was very similar to you. I mean, I didn't take drama. I loved drama, but I just said to myself, I was like, realistically, what am I going to do in my life? And still, I have no idea. But hopefully this will pay off. But with the added pressure of things like, because I was in music, I did music for years and years, and I still love doing music now. But I think that you get labelled if you're in a performing arts or something like that, and kids can be cruel, they really can. And when it comes down to either music or the arts or drama or something like that, and you get that thing of, oh well, they must be gay because they're not out playing football and they're not out doing X, Y, Z. It's such a for someone so young as well. It really does make an impact, because I've had throughout my life, because, and I think also with mine's the comedy, like the comedian side of growing up with me. I've watched really amazing comics like Lee Evans. Lee Evans for me was an amazing comic, and he's very camp, very open in the way that he kind of, was going about it. Very sweaty man as well. But yeah, he was amazing at his comedy. And then you've got people like Michael McIntyre, and obviously I've gone through different comedy genres and things like that as well, but though that Lee Evans was my main sort of person growing up that I've really looked up to as a comic. And I think that it's now, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we're coming out the other side of those types of allegations and things like that. But yeah, I can only imagine, mate, like yourself, like me, that must have hurt a lot when that was going through your mind.
Yeah, and also it was just a case of, that was one of the times that I genuinely opened up about what I wanted to do, and then I get ridiculed for it. But before that episode, I was a completely different kid. I was confident, I was happy, but now it's a case of, now if I'm approaching social situations like parties, for example, that's the biggest one for me, because I just don't like the build-up of going to the party. I'd rather stay at home, if I'm being honest, and just be on my own. But that's not healthy. So when I'm at these parties, I don't really say anything. Like, if there's a group of people, I'll just be wedged in the group and I'll nod, or I'll just agree with everything that they say. I won't say anything that I'm thinking, or if someone's talking about a particular subject and I don't know what's going on, I won't ask a question about it just in case I look stupid. It was even more than that. Like the drink, I went more so as as soon as I arrive at these parties, I would grab a drink first off, and I would get really, really drunk throughout the whole house party. And I kind of got known for, oh, John's always drunk. But that was just how I cope with being in that situation. So yeah, it's something that I've been trying to change for a while. And to be honest, Dan, I didn't even know what it was until last year. It was only since lockdown that I started fully researching what I have, to actually then look at how I can better myself and deal with it. It was all undiagnosed. I just thought that I was just weird or unconfident. I didn't know that it had, a name, or it affected so many people, until I started researching fully about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think research is the key part of it, because you mentioned to me, when we spoke beforehand, that when you went through university and you came out of university, that you had a lot of issues with your anxiety and things like that. So can you tell us a bit more about that as well?
Yeah, so it was kind of a play on from the moment where I opened up. So it was coming towards my final year, and I thought, actually, I really want to be an actor. I really want to do this. And I opened up to, people in my class and people that I was living with. And once I opened up saying, this is what I want to do, then people were saying, nah, you can't do that. It's too difficult. Nobody makes it. I mean, I'm from Wales. I'm from a very, very small town in the west of Wales. And they say, yeah, who makes it from there? Like, who is successful in acting where you're coming from? You have to know somebody in the industry to become successful. So then I just kind of let that dream slip away, because the way in which these people were talking to me about my goal and my dream put me off it. Where they don't necessarily know if I'm really good or if I'm talented or I can make it. I just trusted what they were saying and just let it slide. And that's one of the biggest regrets that I have. So yeah, I just think that is an area where we let other people determine how we should be living our lives. And I just don't think that this is something that I want to change, and I want to help people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I've had a similar thing, with the other projects that I've gone into. I chose to work in hospitality for the flexibility and being able to do that. So I'm able to build out something with this, and also, the radio bits that I'm doing, and hopefully other projects in the future. But it is tough. I mean, like you said there, if you don't know the right, if someone says that you don't know the right person, that's not necessarily the case. You work hard, you get there, and that's the fruits of the labor will come after that. Yes, some people will have, the way that they know people and things like that they'll be able to get into the industry. But I would say a lot of the people are, hardworking and being able to go through it from there. And I think that's for me something that when I hear things like that, what you've just said, it makes me think, well, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing an office 9 to 5, have a stable, do X, Y, Z just to bring in some money? And it's like, well, actually, why not? And I think, and I've said this a couple of times, I started the podcast because I was made redundant and the 9 to 5 office life didn't really fit me that well. Yeah. So I went down a more creative route and started the podcast. And, we're here today, season 2. We're on YouTube now.
Brilliant.
for those that are watching.
It's brilliant.
So yeah, I think that this is a time now that people, and I have seen it loads, that people have been following their passions and building businesses from their passion projects as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it more so. I mean, I released an episode yesterday where I'm talking about this, and it's looking at 20/20 vision, where it's visual acuity, looking at it's not perfect vision, but it's giving you sharpness at a distance. And I think that what 2020 has given us is an opportunity to actually go after what we want to do. And, me personally, I've started the podcast. That's me tapping back into that creativity that I gave up so many years ago. And, I'm seeing you do it. You've started your podcast and you're on radio now and you're just growing so much in the creativity field. But even people that I used to work with, they're setting up businesses and they're doing things that when I knew them, I never would have thought that that's the route that they would go down. But I think that that's one of the positives from lockdown, is that people are starting to finally realize and do what they've always wanted to do, whereas before they didn't have the time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, mate. So just taking it back slightly, one question that I like to get to know with the guests is what their lowest point was. Once you'd come out of either university or the education sector, and when you were looking at all of these, creative dreams and stuff that you were doing there, was that your lowest point when you came out of there and kind of had I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, or was it another time, would you say?
Yeah, do you know what? It was another time, because when I was leaving university and that's when I kind of gave up on the drama side of things, I spoke to one of my friends who had graduated a year before me, because I took a year out before going to uni. And he worked in sales, and he was saying that it's a good job to get into. He thinks that I would be really good because obviously I get on with people. And he just mentioned the money and he said, "Oh, I'm on 18 grand. I'm so happy." And me hearing that, being a student, I was thinking, oh my God, you're rich, Yeah. But then moving into sales, I didn't know what came with it. I just saw it as a money perspective. I didn't look at it as how challenging it can be in terms of your mental health by the pressures and the revolving door atmosphere that goes with it if you're not performing and hitting targets. So my lowest point came when I took this job in sales, and it was in publishing. And I was in my probation period 3 months. And it was about a month or so in, I hadn't got a deal. I hadn't even learned how to sell. I didn't even know techniques or anything. And my manager at the time said to me, "John, you've got 1 week to get a sale in, otherwise you're fired." And to me, that was the lowest point, because I didn't have savings. I was fresh out of university. I moved to London. My whole life is in West Wales, which I wanted to get away from and move to London. And this guy in a week is saying to me, if I don't get a sale, I will lose my job. I don't have savings. I would have to move back home. And that was the lowest point because I literally just sank. I crawled within my skin, and I just didn't know what to do. And I remember it was on a Friday that the guy told me. And on the weekend, I went for a really, really long walk trying to evaluate myself. And what was going through my head was all the negative thoughts like, oh, so what are you going to do when this happens? What are you going to do when that happens? But I wasn't looking at it as a positive. So I started thinking, well, what can I do to help myself? And by the way, because of the social anxiety, I wasn't interacting with strangers. So I wasn't speaking to my colleagues, my co-workers. But I thought, okay, well, how can I at least try and stay in this company so I don't have to move back to West Wales? So I reached out to their top sales performer on the Monday, and I think I was in pieces. I was obviously like sweating, I was trembling, and I was nervous even asking for support and help because I never asked for that before, and showing my vulnerability was really tough, having social anxiety to then having that fear of judgment coming back to you, putting yourself, removing that mask and letting yourself be open, that people can actually ridicule you. But it was actually the opposite. It was my lowest point, but it was also the kind of the best point in my career because the guy actually helped me, and he knew that I was struggling. He gave me a deal that he closed, and he forwarded it to me so I could put the numbers on my target so I could stay within that job. And what it meant for me is that I talked to this guy about what I was going through. Then I formed a good relationship with this person where I go on lunch breaks with them. And then he would tell me about all the stuff that's going on in his mind. So it made me think that actually there are people who are going through the stuff that I'm going through. I'm not alone in this. So that's kind of the lowest, but also the realization and kind of the highest in terms of the change.
Yeah, and that's, do you know what? I've spoken to a couple of people about sales culture and targets and things like that. And it's cutthroat. I mean, for me, I've done one sales job before and I would never go back to it. I'm always post sales now and relationship building and things like that if I go back into it. Yeah. But yeah, it's cutthroat, mate. I mean, I spoke to one of my mates before, Kieran, who was on Series 1, and he started his own business and he's got a really successful sales business now. And honestly, the stuff that he was saying with that, and obviously I've seen it with yourself and some of the other guys when we were working at Get and other companies that I've worked in as well. It's so like, the rewards can be great, but mentally you are fucked. Like, I remember when we went out for a drink before and I said to you, I was like, John boy, like what's going on? Is everything all right? And you just looked at me and then was like, mate, it's a tough week, tough month. And I went, I know, I can tell, mate. And that's when we obviously then had a few beers and probably a few more, but
that's it. Yeah. And that's it as well. It's like you can be, if you're bringing in the business, that company will absolutely adore you and they'll worship the ground you're on. But as soon as next month's target hits and you've got zero, then you're literally, you're a target to them and you've got to change it. Otherwise you're out the door and you're looking for something else. And it's just too many highs and lows. And if you've got mental health challenges on top, then it's not really the best career, I guess. I wish I chose something else, but I do love it. I mean, helping the clients is one of the reasons why I've stayed in it, to form relationships and actually genuinely help them with what the solution that I'm giving. So yeah, it's weird industry, mate.
Honestly, I'm glad that I'm out of it. I'm glad that I'm out of that sales bit. But so you mentioned earlier about how, you know, you reached out to someone within the sales team, they gave you a good lead and things like that. But
yeah,
personally for you, how did you turn it all around? How did you turn all of your previous struggles that you had beforehand and your lowest point into now what it is that you're doing, and you know what you're doing not only for sales but what you're doing in other parts, which we're going to go on to?
Yeah. So that was kind of the start of kind of the change process for me, because I challenged myself and then got a really good reward from it, and obviously formed a great relationship with that person. But then I thought, okay, well, how can I address the certain situations that I'm lacking? So, you know, what do I do when I'm in a, you know, meeting like strangers at a house party? You know, what do I do when I'm actually out of my comfort zone? So then I just started getting more into self-help, and started reading more books. I started going towards Tony Robbins, and I started thinking that actually I shouldn't be focusing on the negatives. I should be focusing solely onto the positives and turning that negative around, because what we think and how we act is what we're going to feel at the end of the day. And by me feeling negative, I knew that quickly all these negative thoughts is how I'm perceived in the world. So I wanted to change that, and I want to become more positive. So self-help was how I turned it around. Meditation, I got into big style, Dan, and breathing exercises, approaching like if I was going to an event or something for work and walking up to that door where there's a room full of prospects, if you will, people that you don't know, and you have to sell to them. I mean, I can't get drunk at those events because I have to talk about what I'm doing for a living. So I can't just be a blubbering mess, but breathing exercises help me. That's how I had to go it. Breathing exercises helped me massively. And just looking at what can the best thing of that situation be, not what is the worst thing that can happen in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? I've only recently found breath work and things like that, because beforehand I was like, I don't think I'd be able to switch off. I don't think I'd be able to clear my mind for meditation and things like that. But it really does help. And I've said this a couple of times, but with the stresses that I've had, again, like I mentioned, when I was in hospitality, tier 4, haven't been in work since mid-December. Luckily now I've got a new project coming up. And things like that. So that's going to help out massively. But, the stress of series 2 coming out and things like that. Like for me, I was just like, this is all getting a bit much. And it was only when, and it's a guy who's a good friend, a guy called Jamie Clements, who does amazing work with breath work. If you don't know him, then check him out. He was a guest on series 1. I'll link you with him, but his breath work stuff is phenomenal. So yeah, definitely. And listeners as well, please check out Jamie Clements. But what is it that you're doing now then, mate, to release mental health stigma in your own way?
Yeah. So I realized that when I was obviously I'm still in sales, but before lockdown, what I found was that I would form relationships with my co-workers and we'd all be going through the same sort of stuff. The stresses, the highs and lows of sales. And I've just been talking openly with people. But then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, there's probably so many people out there that don't know how to help their situation, what they're going through. And I remember I was just lying on my couch in March and lockdown hit. And I just thought, I need to do something. I need to be creative, but I also need to help and reach people, because this is a difficult time and loads of people are losing their jobs and companies are struggling. So if there's colleagues like who I liaise with, and even myself, who have mental health challenges anyway before the lockdown, then what are these people going through now with the uncertainty that's happening? And so I just started thinking, okay, well, what can I do? And to be honest, credit to you, Dan. The podcast was genius from you, because I saw that you posted it on LinkedIn, and I was thinking, oh my God, that's what I need to do. So I kind of copied you in a way.
I knew it.
I know. But I was thinking, well, what can I do? Because I want to inspire people to show that, yes, if we do have adversity and we do go through hardship, then we can fight and we can come through the other side. So I want to speak to guests and that are motivational speakers. They do this on a day-to-day living, like TEDx speakers, or people that have had like a really tough journey, but then they've come out the other side and now they're succeeding. I was thinking those are the type of people that I want to speak to, so that it can help then and inspire others. And that's basically the premise of the whole show. And it's mental. Like you're saying with your podcast, you've had such incredible guests on your show, and it's just weird. Like you get like someone messaging you on LinkedIn or Instagram that have heard your show and they're saying, can I be on it? And you think, why do you want to be on my show? Like I would never have interacted with these people.
Who are you?
Who are you? But before that, I would never have spoken to these people, or never in my wildest dreams had the opportunity to interact with people that have spoken on stage in front of thousands of people, to now hosting it, and I just hope that it's helping people, basically.
Yeah, mate, honestly, it is a fantastic podcast. And anyone who's listening, please check out the Hackshare podcast. So, yeah, I'm so glad that you started it, mate. And you know, the guests you've had on have been amazing. Can you give us a little sneak peek into the future?
So I've got 4 or 5 recordings, and I'm trying to step it up a gear. So I'm trying to speak with a lot more people who have been knighted. So I've got a few people that are, in the pipeline for that. But also on, pardon?
No, I was just going to say it won't be me, mate.
Mate, you're more than welcome, mate. I love chatting to you.
I'll take Sir Draper, but I don't think it's ever going to come.
No, I also started a YouTube channel in January. So I'm doing more kind of short episodes where I'll talk with the things that have helped me, like 5-6 minute episodes, but they're videos. So that's basically what I'm doing, mate. I'm trying to level up and keep growing that ladder.
Amazing, man. I absolutely love that, because I feel like we're on a similar journey as well with a lot of what we're doing. Absolutely, just constant leveling up. So what would you say then, like with some of the results that you've seen from either the people that you've done with the coaching work or with the podcast, what kind of feedback and what have people said to you about the projects that you're doing at the moment and how it's impacted their lives as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'll explain how I got into the coaching. So when I started the Hackshare podcast, I was probably about 2 or 3 episodes in, and I got a few DMs in my Instagram from people that have listened to the episode, and they're saying that, you know, they're suffering with depression or they've got PTSD, and they're literally messaging me with what they're going through. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not trained to help you. Why are you reaching out to me? I just run a podcast. I've been doing this for like a month, but I wanted to help these people. And I was thinking, what can I do to help the people on an individual basis? Because the podcast can reach a wider audience, but with people who have specific requirements, maybe one-to-one consultations, how can I reach them? And I thought, and it was just weird. Like, I think that Facebook was listening to me at this point, listening to my thoughts, because then I got be a life coach, NLP practitioner, £7 diploma, you know?
Honestly, they're always listening.
Always listening. I think they are. And I was thinking £7. I was like, no, if I want to do this, I want to do this properly. So I went to college and studied. I studied with the UK College of Personal Development, and it's basically like a dissertation, like a degree that I had to submit all my coaching hours and all the methods and learn and train. And I'm doing it properly, and I'm hopeful to get the full accreditation through very, very soon, which means that I'm a professional, certified, qualified coach. So that's the results. And I've just been helping people ever since, but also trying to help them get through the past traumas that they've been going through, like what I've been going through with that group of kids that were mocking me for doing drama. That's had such a big effect on me that these people, they might have had a similar situation when they're young. So I want to unlock that and deal with that situation so that they don't have to go through, many more years of the same situation and it then bugging them, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool, because I think that if I had someone like you when I was younger and I had just that hand on my shoulder to say, it's going to be all right, like the bullies will go away at some time, because, when I was in school, I was bullied at times as well, right. even though I come across as this really confident person. But I think that if I had someone like you who was coaching or, just that kind of, it's going to be fine, mate. Stick with your creative. Do what you got to do with it. And then it would have been such a different story. Full props to you, bro. Like, honestly, that is incredible. So just the last question then. For anybody that would be going through a similar situation to what you are back in the day, what advice would you give to them? What would be some pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, sure. Well, what's helped me is I look at the social anxiety like I look at goal setting, and I also picture this kind of like ladder, you know? So whatever we want to reach, I always picture my final goal at the top of this ladder. And if I take that first step, that means that every step that I'm taking, I'm getting closer towards that goal. And the way that I see it with social anxiety as well is, okay, yes, you might have a fear of, you know, going to parties or interacting with coworkers or speaking on stage, but you can't just solve it in one go. You know, you have to take that first step. So, you know, break down the area that's affecting you and try and manage it and deal with it in smaller situations that are similar so that you can then expand on. But also, yeah, challenge yourself. Don't be afraid of your limitations. Nobody knows how good you are. Don't listen to people. And also, if there are things that are bugging you and they have bugged you in the past, just imagine that situation now and think, okay, if I was in that situation right this minute with all of these new skills and all of these resources that I've had since that episode, how would I manage that situation differently? It's a lot. That's a lot of tips, Dan, but I'm literally just pouring it out, mate.
Mate, it's so good because I think it's so key. And, you know, like we were saying about our experiences in school and stuff like that, it's going to be so helpful for so many people, especially in this time where, you know, we're all just a bit like, well, what's next? You know, what's happening? And I think that what you said there about the structure, like putting a bit of structure into my life has been a savior for me because I've never really been too much for structure. I've always kind of just gone with the flow, seen what happens and things like that. But now that I've got, okay, this is what I'm doing between this time and this time. This is and it just makes my head so much clearer. Like I've got a diary now. I've never had a diary in my life. I opened the pages and was like, what is this? Like, but it works so much for me and it's made me so much clearer. So thank you for that, man. I really do appreciate it.
Mate, and also journaling, like that has helped me massively because I would document every time that I've completed something that I've been scared or fearful for, so that because I've got it in writing, if I'm approaching a situation similar to that in the future, I can always go back to it and I can actually see that I've written it down, that I've actually done this, instead of me trying to remember a time that I've actually overcome something good, because I don't think that we necessarily focus on the good things. We always remember the bad things, but by documenting the good things down, at least you have it in writing so you can think to yourself, yep, I kicked ass at that time and I'll do it again this time. That's helped me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, thank you so much. Where is it that we can find you? Where can we find the Hatshare podcast? Where's your website? Tell us all your deets.
Oh, cheers, mate. So the Hackshare podcast is on all channels, like Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to them. I think I'm on pretty much all of them now. I've also started a YouTube channel, which is the same name. It's the Hackshare. I didn't put podcast in the YouTube channel for some reason. I don't know why. But I also have a website, www.thehackshare.com. And all social media is just at the Hackshare. So yeah, I hope that that's enough Hackshares that has come through from this.
If it wasn't clear, it's on the Hackshare. Google it.
I should have just said something completely random halfway. It's like, what's he on about? Like, he was on about a Hackshare.
Yeah, it's greenparrotsrus.com. Like.
Yeah. Drillbits.com. It's like, what is this guy? Yeah. Is this guy mad? Like, Dan, who have you got on your show this week, mate?
John, thank you so much, mate. It has been an absolute pleasure catching up, and I cannot wait for things to be eased and obviously safely, but for lockdown to be eased and restrictions to come down and things like that. Because one of the first things that we need to do is me, you, Shabby, and a couple of the other guys need to get out and we need to have a beer when it's safe and when we're able to.
Mate, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, like, honestly, congrats with everything that you're doing, mate. And like, yeah, you're just absolutely smashing it. And I'm not jealous. I'm really, really happy for you because I know that this is what you've always wanted to do. And, you know, mate, I'm just looking forward to hearing everything that you're up to. And yeah, it'd be great to catch up when everything's all done and dusted and we can get out of our houses safely.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And stay safe. And yeah, we will definitely be meeting up again soon.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.